Hey guys, tonight we explore the quiet wonders of science podcast for sleep. Vinyl record. Crackles like a cozy hearth. You lower the stylus onto the spinning vinyl, feeling that first gentle thump as it lands at the groove's edge, and you probably won't resist another spin. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, post your location and local time below so we can share this warm audio moment together. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You hear that initial crackle like the soft pop of an ember settling, and it wraps around you like a blanket by the fireside. That warm popcorn noise arises because the stylus physically vibrates as it navigates microscopic pits and bumps in the vinyl's surface. Mainstream acoustics tells us that these tiny surface irregularities generate broadband noise spanning roughly 1 kHz to 10 kHz, adding a gentle white noise layer underneath the music that your ears perceive as comforting texture rather than distraction. It's similar to the way rainfall sounds fade into a soothing backdrop rather than a jarring interruption, coaxing your mind toward relaxation. Between those initial pops, you sense a subtle hiss, airborne dust in the studio microphone, capturing the record's natural ambience. Fringe audiophile circles sometimes swear by ultra-clean grooves, recommending anti-static carbon fiber brushes before each play to sweep away microscopic debris. They claim this ritual not only reduces crackles, but unlocks hidden harmonic overtones that vinyl lovers call the angelic shimmer. Whether these pre-play rituals genuinely reveal buried sonic details or simply add ritualistic charm to your listening routine, mastering engineers still debate the trade-off between obsessive cleaning and preserving vinyl's original texture. You lean in to watch the tone arm pivot gracefully along its arc, the stylus tracing the groove's helical path at a steady 33 revolutions per minute. That precise speed ensures each groove wall passes under the needle at about 1.3 meters per second, translating mechanical undulations into audio frequencies with remarkable fidelity. Mainstream turntable design prioritizes rotational stability within plus 0.1% to prevent pitch fluctuations, tiny wow, and flutter effects that could otherwise yank you out of your sleepy reverie. It's remarkable how a rotating platter and a diamond-tipped needle can orchestrate a high-fidelity soundstage with such mechanical simplicity. As the chatter of crackles settles into a regular cadence, you notice the warm, mid-range resonance emerging little clusters of pops that seem to follow the music's harmonic envelope. Vinyl's inherent compression means loud passages press grooves deeper, creating more pronounced crackles in high-energy tracks. In some fringe mastering studios, engineers experiment with groove mic techniques, placing tiny contact microphones on the record surface to capture the physical crackle separately and blend it artistically back into the mix. They argue that embracing noise rather than erasing it grants each playback a unique sonic fingerprint. Audio purists and sound engineers still debate whether this creative reinterpretation respects the artist's intent or risks turning each record into a remix of its own imperfections. You settle your fingers gently on the record's edge to feel the subtle warmth radiating from the platter's bearing housing. Those ball bearings, lubricated to minimize friction, generate a faint but perceivable heat, a mainstream mechanical fact. Frictional force multiplied by rotational speed produces thermal energy, which in a well-designed tone arm assembly remains below 30 degrees 86 degf even after hours of play. That warmth hardly registers as anything more than a mild foot warmer under your palm. Yet, it's a tactile reminder that vinyl playback is as much a physical experience as an auditory one. Between that mild warmth and the Crackles' embrace, you sense a playful connection to bygone listening rituals, family gatherings clustered around a turntable, tiptoeing over carpeted floors to avoid rumbling vibrations, sharing whispered impressions of that next track. Sound historians sometimes refer to these communal moments as vinyl hygge, borrowing the Danish concept of cozy togetherness. Whether hygge properly translates to record listening or feels like marketing fluff, anthropologists still debate how cultural contexts shape our emotional bonds with analog media. You let out a contented sigh as the crackle pattern shifts slightly, with the next groove the stylus transitioning from a sparse, quiet passage into a section dense with low-frequency information. Those bass-heavy grooves widen and deepen, generating fewer crackles but a more pronounced mechanical thump as the needle negotiates larger groove excursions. Mainstream audio physics confirms that groove modulation amplitude correlates directly with sound pressure levels. Larger excursions create louder bass, but also demand greater stylus compliance to prevent skipping. It's a careful dance between groove depth, stylus shape, and tracking force, all converging in that round-robin whisper of fireplace pops and crackles. You grin as a quirky fringe tip surfaces in your mind. Some vinyl aficionados swear by placing a single uncooked rice grain on the record mat, claiming its mass dampens platter resonance and reduces unwanted rumble. You imagine the improbability of one tiny rice kernel altering the sonic tapestry, yet, puzzlingly, some swear by the difference. Whether that superstition holds any acoustic merit or simply embodies listener bias, audio scientists still debate the placebo effects that document-level tweaks impose on our auditory perceptions. Between each crisp crackle, you catch the gentle swirl of room air against your skin, guided by ceiling fan currents that enhance the sense of warmth and movement. That ambient airflow, akin to a campfire's gentle smoke drift, interacts with the crackle, carrying it softly around the room. In fringe sound therapy sessions, practitioners sometimes blow scented vapor lavender or sandalwood into the speaker's path, claiming that olfactory cues paired with crackle rhythms deepen relaxation. Whether scent-sound pairing truly enhances the mind-body lull or simply adds another layer of novelty, neuroscientists still debate the cross-modal integration of aroma and audio in sleep induction. You ease back into your pillow, letting the stylus hum on as the crackle prelude transforms from abrupt popping to a steady patter, an audio hearth that radiates both sonic warmth and psychological comfort. It's more than nostalgia. It's science meeting ceremony, where microscopic mechanical events converge to restore a sense of calm. And in that comforting rumble, your mind begins its slow descent into sleep, knowing that each crackle is a tiny ember keeping your journey gently lit. You watch as the tone arm lowers the stylus into the spiraling groove, and you feel its microscopic dance translate vinyl's etched vibrations into sound, a mechanical ballet hidden beneath your fingertips. That stylus-groove interaction begins with the needle's conical tip, typically a fine diamond or sapphire crystal, locking into the groove's lateral modulations. Each tiny deviation in the groove walls corresponds to sound waves, and mainstream audio engineering tells us that those lateral movements, measured in microns, can capture frequencies from around 20 Hz up to 20 kHz when the stylus faithfully tracks the groove shape with minimal distortion. It's astonishing how a tip the size of a grain of sand can recreate the full spectrum of human hearing with such fidelity. As the platter turns at a constant 33,100 RPM, the stylus tip dances laterally and vertically, following the groove's precise undulations. You lean closer, listening to the quiet tick-tick rhythm of the cantilever pivoting in its suspension, a suspension often made from lightweight aluminum or boron, designed to minimize inertia and maintain intimate contact with the vinyl surface. Fringe audio tinkerers sometimes swap in exotic cantilever materials like carbon fiber or even glass tubes, claiming these alternatives yield a purer sound or more detailed crackle reproduction. Whether such exotic swaps truly enhance sonic nuance or merely reflect audiophile bravado, cartridge designers still debate the optimal balance between rigidity, mass, and compliance. Between those mechanical whispers, you sense the tracking force at play, a gentle downward pressure measured in grams that holds the stylus in the groove without wearing the record. Mainstream turntable setup guidelines recommend around 1.8 to 2.2 grams for many cartridges, striking a balance between secure tracking and minimal record wear over time. Too little force, and the stylus can skip grooves. Too much, and the vinyl surface risks accelerated wear. Engineers still debate whether heavier tracking forces might subtly change crackle characteristics. But to you, it's enough to trust that your tone arm's counterweight is dialed in just right for a cozy crackle performance. You feel a slight warmth from the cantilever's base as tiny eddy currents flow through its metal components, an incidental effect of electromagnetic cartridge designs, where coils or magnets convert mechanical motion into electrical signals. In moving magnet cartridges, a tiny magnet on the cantilever moves within stationary coils, inducing voltage proportional to groove movements. In moving coil designs, the Rolls reverse coils on the cantilever move within a magnetic field. Fringe DIY enthusiasts sometimes build hybrid cartridges swapping magnet and coil assemblies mid-play to chase the elusive combination of crackle richness and musical detail. Whether these Franken cartridges truly transcend stock designs or simply highlight the subjective nature of sound preference, audio engineers still debate the theoretical benefits of each topology. Between the stylus's gentle hum and the record's spinning hiss, you notice how the cartridge's compliance, the stiffness of its suspension, affects crackle sensitivity. A more compliant suspension allows the stylus to respond to subtler groove imperfections, amplifying faint pops, while a stiffer design isolates high-level musical signals at the cost of masking some surface noise. It's a mainstream fact that cartridge compliance, measured in micrometers per millinewton, shapes both frequency response and noise profile. Some fringe audiophile circles recommend ultra-compliant cartridges for crackle enthusiasts, claiming that the extra texture deepens the listening experience. Whether this quest for maximum noise fidelity honors vinyl's essence or borders on fetish, psychoacousticians still debate the emotional impact of surface noise on listener engagement. You imagine each microscopic groove ripple as a tiny mountain range for the stylus to traverse valleys and peaks, carved by the original lacquer-cutting lathe. Those lathe cutters, heated and vibrating with the master recording, gouged the lacquer at depths of about 50 to 100 microns, leaving behind the blueprint for every record pressed thereafter. Fringe mastering engineers sometimes use alternative cutting stylus profiles, elliptical or micro-ridge shapes, to tweak how grooves capture high-frequency content and crackle characteristics. They assert that these profiles can sculpt crackle tone from bright and airy to warm and subdued. Whether these cutting nuances survive mass vinyl pressing processes unchanged, or blend into manufacturing tolerances. Pressing plant technicians still debate the persistence of master-cut nuances in final LPs. Between each soft pop, you sense the anti-skate mechanism engaging a subtle counterforce that prevents the stylus from pulling inward toward the record's center. Mainstream tone arm design employs small weights or spring systems to apply lateral compensation equal to the frictional force between groove wall and stylus, typically a few grams of outward bias. Without anti-skate, the stylus would wear one groove wall unevenly, altering crackle patterns over time and potentially distorting stereo imaging. Audiophile DIYers sometimes experiment with magnetic anti-skate systems for smoother, frictionless compensation, though cartridge makers still debate the comparative benefits of magnetic versus mechanical solutions. As the music settles beneath the crackle, you detect the stylus's tiny vertical movements carving through record warps or minute platter imperfections. Warped records, heated and cooled unevenly over decades, develop gentle undulations that cause vertical stylus oscillation. Heard as fluttering pitch variations, another facet of Crackles' Hearth-like charm. Mainstream vinyl preservationists recommend storing records vertically at room temperature around 68 to 20°C, with 45 to 50% relative humidity to minimize warping. Whether specialized warp correction turntables with stabilizing clamps genuinely restore pitch stability or risk damaging fragile vinyl, archivists still debate the safest approach to playback longevity. Between those microclimatic considerations, you quip softly, my stylus is practically an ice sculptor and a gold prospecting prospector all at once. That playful nudge acknowledges how the stylus physically etches through decades of vinyl dust and wear to reveal hidden sonic gems. The stylus's dual role as sculptor and prospector underscores the blend of mechanical precision and auditory archaeology at work every time you lower the tone arm. Finally, you hear the stylus's gentle glide into a quieter groove, a brief hush as the record's surface smooths, the crackle receding like embers cooling below ember threshold. You close your eyes, letting the stylus's mechanical ballet echo in your mind, a comforting loop of motion and sound that softly ushers you deeper into serenity. You lean in close as the vinyl spins, noticing that the crackle isn't uniform. It's a delicate choreography of pops and clicks, each one signaling a tiny dust speck or micro-scratch dancing under the stylus tip. Mainstream vinyl science tells us that most surface noise originates from particles as small as 1 to 10 micrometers lodged in the groove, each bump producing a high-frequency transient spanning roughly 5 kHz to 15 kHz. That microscopic burr sends the stylus on a fleeting excursion, creating the characteristic click you hear before the music resumes its warm flow. It's like watching a gentle snowfall hit a pond, where each flake makes its own unique ripple before merging into the larger wave. Between those pinpoint pops, you sense how the density of imperfections colors the soundscape. Clean sections of vinyl, those lovingly maintained or freshly pressed, offer only sparse crackles, whereas well-loved or dusty records create a symphony of micro-explosions. Fringe audiophile circles sometimes recommend ultrasonic cleaning baths that submerge the entire LP in deionized water and gentle vibrations, claiming that the process removes embedded dust without warping grooves. They swear by seeing as much as a 90% reduction in surface noise. Whether ultrasonic cleaning preserves more vinyl detail or risks delaminating delicate lacquer layers, pressing plant veterans and preservationists still debate the long-term safety of such intense cleaning methods. You gently pause your listening to watch the stylus's cantilever sway with each pop, its slight rebound akin to a dancer stepping back after a tap. That responsiveness comes from the cartridge's compliance and the suspension's damping characteristics, which mainstream cartridge specifications express in compliance units of about 10 to 20 micrometers per millinewton. A more compliant suspension yields greater sensitivity to dust-induced pops, but can blur fine musical detail, while a stiffer mount sacrifices some warmth for clarity. It's a delicate design choice. Do you want a sonic tapestry woven with every particle's voice, or do you prefer a smoother sound at the cost of micronoise? As the record plays, you catch a faint metallic ring, a longer resonance following a deeper scratch. That lingering tone comes from the stylus oscillating in a tiny resonant cavity created by the scratch edges. Mainstream acoustical engineering reveals that scratches can act as tiny Helmholtz resonators, vibrating at frequencies inversely proportional to the scratch's dimensions. A single deep scratch several hundred micrometers wide might resonate around 300 Hz, adding a low-frequency ping to your cozy crackle. If you listen closely, you can almost feel the stylus singing as it navigates that scar in the vinyl's surface. You recall an old trick from fringe turntablists, applying a minuscule dab of record cleaning fluid, typically a mix of isopropyl alcohol and distilled water, directly onto a stubborn scratch to slightly soften its edges and reduce resonance. They caution that the fluid must evaporate completely to avoid leaving residue. And chemists still debate whether such solvents might slowly degrade PVC over repeated uses. Whether the occasional drop adds sonic benefit or risks long-term vinyl integrity remains a point of contention in audio restoration forums. Between pops, you sense the gentle shifts in tracking force's effectiveness at blunting scratches. A slightly higher force, say 2.2 grams instead of 1.8 grams, can press the stylus deeper into shallow abrasions, turning what would be a loud click into a muted thud. Mainstream turntable guidelines often suggest experimenting within a 0.5 gram range to dial out the worst of the surface noise without causing undue wear. Yet some audiophiles argue in fringe threads that heavier tracking evolves the crackle into a more immersive texture, like exchanging pointillist brushstrokes for oil impasto. Whether that trade-off constitutes artistic expression or record abuse, vintage cartridge engineers still debate the ideal tracking force sweet spot. You close your eyes and let the crackle's rhythm anchor you, each pop a mindful pulse that grounds you in the moment. It's akin to a heartbeat guiding a meditation session, noisy, yet oddly reassuring in its consistency. Lightly chuckling, you quip, "I never thought dirt could have such a comforting voice." Indeed, that warm imperfection distinguishes vinyl from digital's sterile precision, turning each scratch into a tiny storyteller, whispering of past listening sessions and room atmospheres. As you drift back, you notice a cluster of rapid-fire clicks like a soft hail shower on a quiet roof rising from a patch of heavier wear near the inner groove. Those tighter spirals press more vinyl under the stylus per unit time, so any surface blemish there triggers more frequent pops. Mainstream groove geometry notes that the linear velocity at the inner tracks can drop by up to 30% compared to outer tracks, which concentrates groove density and can subtly amplify surface noise. Engineers still debate whether designing records with variable groove pitch, wider spacing at the inner bands might have alleviated this inner track crackle. But the standard 2.5 mm per revolution remains dominant. You imagine your grandmother's living room, where her well-played crooner LPs greeted each drop of the needle with nostalgic pops under the warm glow of a table lamp. Sound historians sometimes refer to these familial acoustics as domestic sonic signatures, arguing that household-specific dust and scratch patterns become as recognizable as a loved one's voice. Whether these domestic crackle signatures can truly evoke place memory or simply reflect emotional bias remains a lively debate among ethnomusicologists. You take a deliberate breath and let the stylus ride through a relatively clean stretch, savoring the way the crackle subsides into a peaceful hum. That contrast between pristine audio and bustling noise frames the listening experience like chapters in an audible bedtime story, each crackle a punctuation mark guiding you through the narrative. It's a mainstream psychological fact that intermittent noise can heighten relaxation and focus by preventing mind wandering, akin to the way rain on a tin roof lulls one toward sleep more effectively than constant silence. Between these pop-pause cycles, you remember a fringe ritual some vinyl collectors keep: a soft bristled stylus cleaning brush by their turntables, gently sweeping the needle after every side to remove lodged debris. They swear it preserves both record and needle life, arguing that a clean stylus yields a more consistent crackle profile. Whether post-play stylus cleaning truly extends diamond tip longevity or simply feeds audiophile ritualism, cartridge manufacturers still debate the cleaning frequency that balances care with convenience. Finally, you feel the crackle taper into a distant echo as the melodic track swells, each pop now a subtle seasoning rather than a focal point. You settle deeper under your blanket, letting the stylus's microscopic ballet and the dust-laden symphony weave you toward rest. In that gentle interplay of imperfection and warmth, you find a serene intimacy, proof that even the tiniest particles can guide you into a peaceful slumber. You lean forward, eyes tracking as the crackle's cadence swells and subsides, and you notice how each pop's pitch and volume shift in harmony with the record's own amplitude and frequency contours. Those variations stem from the groove's depth and spacing deeper. Wider grooves sculpt louder, lower frequency pops, while shallower, tighter grooves yield softer, higher-pitched clicks. Mainstream audio physics tells us that the vertical excursion of the stylus, its amplitude directly maps to sound pressure level, and the lateral spacing between groove wiggles determines frequency content. So every bump in the vinyl encodes a microcosm of amplitude-frequency interplay. It's like watching a tiny mountain range of sound, where each valley and peak orchestrates crackle, tone, and timbre. As you listen, the record's bass-heavy passages, the swell of double bass or kick drum, press the stylus deeper into the vinyl, creating a distinctive low thud when the stylus crosses a minor imperfection. That thud registers around 100 to 200 Hz, enveloping you in a gentle subsonic patter that feels more felt than heard. In contrast, the acoustic guitar's fingerpicks carve narrow, high-frequency scratches near 5 kHz, producing tinny, crystalline clicks that dance on the edge of perception. Fringe turntable artists sometimes exploit this phenomenon by intentionally etching noise grooves of specific depths and spacings into blank vinyl, crafting bespoke crackle tracks that shift tone and rhythm in hypnotic patterns. They argue that these engineered noise maps elevate crackle from incidental to integral sonic art. Whether such deliberate noise sculpting honors vinyl's organic character or veers into synthetic gimmickry, noise researchers still debate the aesthetic merits of composing with imperfection. You tilt your head and lean closer, detecting how the crackle's intensity waxes at the record's outer edge, where linear groove velocity reaches roughly 50 centimeters per second and wanes toward the center, where velocity drops to about 30 centimeters per second. Mainstream turntable dynamics note that higher linear speed at the outer radii translates tiny groove undulations into more pronounced stylus displacements, thus louder crackles. It's a gentle reminder that the physics of rotation and groove geometry conspire to shape the crackle's amplitude profile across each record side, like the rising and falling tides of an audio shoreline. Between those rhythmic swells, you reflect on the way frequency content evolves in quiet acoustic sections. Surface noise emerges as a sparse, almost melodic rhythm of clicks, each click's spectral content leaning toward brighter harmonics. Yet in dense orchestral crescendos, the crackles blend into the musical backdrop, their distinct frequencies masked by the instrument's own overtones. That masking effect is a mainstream psychoacoustic principle. Stronger sounds at certain frequencies can obscure quieter sounds within the same band, creating a natural compression that hides crackle within musical complexity. It's a testament to the way human perception selectively prioritizes and filters sound, sculpting your experience of noise as either foreground or background. You smile as you recall an eccentric fringe claim that some audiophiles embed tiny scratch sequences at predetermined frequencies, like 440 Hz or 8880 Hz, so the crackle resonates musically with the performance. They go to lengths to cut grooves with calibrated impurities, ensuring that each click harmonizes with the track's key. Purists and mastering engineers still debate whether these musical crackles betray the record's authenticity or offer a novel extension of artistic expression. Either way, the notion tickles your curiosity. Could a well-placed scratch become a secret second melody? You gently sway in your seat as the stylus glides through a patch of moderate wear, where crackles coalesce into a steady 4 clicks per second rhythm, almost like a metronome whispering alongside the beat. That consistent click rate arises because the groove's micro-imperfections occur at somewhat regular intervals along that spiral, and mainstream groove-cutting machines maintain a near-constant groove pitch, typically around 2.5 to 3.5 TPI tracks per inch. The result, a natural click tempo that approximates 3 to 5 pops per second, a pace that your brain might unconsciously lock onto, enhancing a feeling of rhythmic comfort. Between the metronomic crackles, you quip. Who knew dusty vinyl could double as a sleep aid metronome? Indeed, fringe sleep therapists have experimented with isolating these click rhythms, blending them into guided breathing apps to encourage a 4 to 6 breaths per minute relaxation pattern. They claim the similarity between crackle tempo and meditative breathing rates can synchronize physiology with sound, deepening the lull. Whether these cross-modal breathing click interventions truly enhance sleep onset or simply amuse vinyl enthusiasts, behavioral scientists still debate the potency of rhythmic noise as a sleep cue. You lean back and let the amplitude-frequency dance carry you onward. In a particularly sparse musical passage, a single pronounced bump punctuates the silence, a lone, low-frequency pop that rings like a distant footstep in an empty hallway. That pop likely originates from a tiny divot in the groove floor, causing the stylus to bounce momentarily before settling back into the track. Mainstream turntable design accounts for such impulses by employing damped suspensions that absorb sudden jolts, minimizing skipping. Yet even the best tone arms only soften these excursions, never entirely eliminating the auditory footprint of mechanical imperfection. As you close your eyes, the crackle's tonal shifts blend into a soft continuum, each pitch and loudness variation crafting an ever-evolving tapestry of warmth. You catch yourself humming along to the pattern, a subconscious duet with vinyl's micro-arena, lightly chuckling. You note, "I've always wanted a duet partner who only knows 3 notes and a handful of pops." The crackle becomes your playful collaborator, improvising alongside the main track with mechanical spontaneity. Between clicks and thuds, you trace the music's envelope. Rising volume brings a denser, deeper crackle palette, while gentle passages allow high-frequency tinkles to ring free. That dynamic interplay feels alive, an organic background score of micro-events punctuating the primary performance. It's mainstream audio artistry. The interplay of noise and music enhances the emotional texture, adding a sense of realism and space, much like hearing distant insects during a nighttime jazz set outdoors. You drift with the rhythm as the stylus approaches the record's final grooves. The amplitude gradually diminishes, and the crackle's frequency content narrows, yielding fainter, higher-pitched clicks. It's as if the sonic hearth is winding down, embers fading to ash. Each micropop now feels like a tiny farewell wave, bidding you a gentle goodnight. You feel the subtle warmth radiating from the white-hot stylus as it rides the vinyl groove, a gentle heat, born of friction and electrical resistance, warming the tiny area beneath the cantilever. Mainstream thermodynamics tells us that when 2 surfaces slide against each other, a fraction of mechanical work converts to heat. In your turntable's case, the stylus endures around 0.1 grams of tracking force at roughly 1.3 mm/s linear groove speed, generating enough thermal energy to raise local vinyl temperature by about 0.5 to 1 degrees C. It's barely perceptible, more like a fleeting foot warmer than a hot plate. Yet that tiny warmth whispers of the molecular dance unfolding in real time beneath your ear. As you listen, you recall that vinyl expands with temperature. The coefficient of thermal expansion for PVC sits around 50 ppm 10 to 6 per degree Celsius, so even that slight heat can alter groove dimensions by mere nanometers. Fringe audiophile lore suggests pre-warming records on low-power lamps or heaters for a few minutes before play can pre-stress the vinyl, reducing warps and enhancing crackle consistency. Proponents swear by a smoother first minute of playback, fewer skips, and a more stable crackle tone. Whether this gentle vinyl annealing truly yields sonic improvements or simply masks minor warps, record preservation experts still debate whether intentional pre-warming accelerates long-term material fatigue. You run your finger along the record's edge, noting how ambient room temperature, say around 68 joules Celsius in a typical listening space, sets the stage for crackle character before heat from the stylus ever arrives. In cooler conditions, vinyl contracts, deepening grooves ever so slightly, making crackles sharper and more pronounced. In warmer rooms, grooves relax, softening high-frequency pops. Mainstream vinyl playback guides often recommend maintaining listening environments between 65 to 75 degrees, 18 to 24 degrees C, with 45–55% relative humidity to balance groove stability and stylus performance. Whether you chase the crisp bite of winter's chill or the buttery smoothness of summer warmth, the thermal context quietly sculpts every crackle. Between warm and cool passages, you sense the stylus's thermal inertia during a bass-heavy section. The stylus temperature climbs incrementally, momentarily softening the groove walls and slightly blunting crackle transients. That effect mirrors cooking sugar gently. A slow heat rise melts sharp edges into softer contours. Fringe experimenters sometimes track crackle spectra over extended plays to chart stylus temperature effects, noting a subtle shift of peak crackle energy from 8 kHz down to 6 kHz as the stylus warms by 1 degree C. Whether these spectral drifts represent meaningful listening differences or merely curious anomalies, acoustic scientists still debate the perceptual threshold at which thermal expansion alters audible noise profiles. You notice a playful shift as the record moves toward its final minutes. Stationary grooves at the runout area see the stylus lingering over the same microscopic vinyl terrain longer, generating slightly more heat per unit area. That localized warming can create a mild groove memory, where the vinyl momentarily assumes the stylus's thermal imprint, tiny dimensional changes that influence crackle frequency until the stylus exits the spiral. Mainstream material science describes this as a reversible viscoelastic response. Vinyl's polymer chains shift under heat and pressure, then slowly rebound. Whether these transient deformations subtly alter runout crackle or quickly relax without consequence, polymer physicists still explore the time constants of PVC's thermomechanical behavior. Between crackles, you quip, "My stylus doubles as a hot stone massage therapist." It's apt the stylus's gentle heat soothes the vinyl's microscopic peaks, and in return, the record shares its crackle-rich massage of your auditory nerve endings. That mutual embrace exemplifies the intimate thermomechanical feedback loop at the heart of analog playback. You pause to consider the heat's secondary effects. Slight thermal expansion can loosen tiny dust particles adhering within grooves, perhaps reducing future crackles or scattering dust into adjacent valleys. Fringe cleaning aficionados sometimes use mild heat lamps to coax dust free before brushing, claiming a single pre-play warm cycle clears more debris than dozens of static brush strokes. Whether these tactics genuinely enhance sonic cleanliness or risk softening vinyl binders, cleaning experts still debate the safety margin for heat-based dust removal. As the warmth ebbs near the record's end, you feel the stylus's temperature gently recede, the molecular friction subsiding as grooves smooth out and music fades into silence. The vinyl contracts minutely, restoring its pristine dimensions for the next playback. You release a contented sigh, rich with the comfort of thermomechanical harmony, and let the memory of that tiny heat whisper lull you closer to rest. You lean in to listen for the faintest hiss between pops, and you notice occasional tiny crackles that aren't from dust, but from static discharges, those miniature electrostatic sparks that leap between stylus and vinyl like micro-lightning. That subtle snap arises because PVC records can accumulate charges from friction and handling. When the polarized stylus tip nears a charged groove, electrons jump the gap, producing broadband impulses around 220 kHz. It's a mainstream electrostatics fact that triboelectric charging separates surface charges when dissimilar materials rub together, in this case, your vinyl and the stylus, creating potentials of several kilovolts before a tiny static spark equalizes them. Between these spark-like pops, you recall that anti-static record brushes and carbon fiber cloths can neutralize charge buildup, reducing stray discharges. Fringe audiophile circles even employ ionizing air blowers, desktop static zapper guns aimed at the platter before play, claiming they eliminate nearly all electrostatic noise. They argue that a fully decharged record yields a pure, crackle-free backdrop for music. Whether these ionizing methods strip away only unwanted sparks or also remove some of vinyl's natural warmth, Audio engineers still debate the impact of static suppression on overall sonics. As you listen, you feel a slight tingle on your fingertips, where you rested them on the record edge, an almost imperceptible sensation of electrons migrating from your skin into the vinyl. That phenomenon stems from the skin's conductivity, allowing surface charges to bleed off slowly over seconds. Mainstream dermatology notes that human skin resistance varies between 1 to 100 megohms, which means even a tiny body record contact can neutralize static in a gentle, self-regulating cycle. It's a curious reminder that you and your record form an electrostatic circuit. Each listening session a tiny experiment in charge equilibrium. You tilt your head and quip softly. "I've discovered the secret spark soundtrack of vinyl, no seatbelt required." The flicker of static pops becomes a playful companion to the Crackle symphony, adding a fleeting random shimmer to the hearth-like warmth. In quieter passages, these electrostatic zaps stand out like fireflies in a still night, guiding you through the song's sparse moments. Between zaps and hisses, you notice how room humidity influences static prevalence on dry days. The crackles include more static ticks, while after a light rain or in higher humidity environments, those spark pops nearly vanish. Mainstream climate control recommendations for vinyl listening spaces suggest maintaining relative humidity around 45–55%, a sweet spot that balances record dimensional stability and charge dissipation. Whether you chase drier crackle or more subdued warmth, the air itself becomes a subtle collaborator in your sonic ritual. You close your eyes and let the static whispers drift through your mind, each tiny electron jump knitting together science and sensation. It's another layer in the crackle tapestry, a reminder that every mechanical vibration has an electrical counterpart, and that your analog hearth pulses with both moving molecules and migrating charges. You rest your hand lightly on the turntable's wooden plinth and feel a subtle vibration humming through the grain, an almost inaudible resonance that blends with the crackle to form a warm sonic foundation. That resonance stems from the plinth, acting as a mechanical amplifier low-frequency vibrations from the motor and stylus couple into the wood, which, with a typical density around 700 km/s and Young's modulus near 10 GPa, vibrates like a broadband subwoofer. Mainstream furniture acoustics recognizes that wood's natural damping properties, its internal friction and anisotropic grain structure smooth out harsh transients, transforming sharp stylus thuds into gentle, rounded pulses. As you listen, the hum beneath the crackle feels like a distant bonfire's low rumble, a cozy undertone grounding the high-frequency sparks and pop zone. Fringe audiophile luthiers sometimes build plinths from exotic woods like rosewood or bubinga, touting their unique resonant frequencies and tonal coloration. They argue that a carefully chosen wood species can tune the system's warmth, much as guitar makers select woods for body resonance. Whether these bespoke plinths yield discernible sonic benefits or simply reflect connoisseur craftsmanship, turntable designers still debate the trade-off between resonance control and aesthetic appeal. Between crackles, you notice how the plinth's resonance shifts subtly when you press a finger against it, your touch adding mass and damping, slightly reducing the amplitude of low-frequency hum. Mainstream vibration isolation guides recommend rubber feet or sorbethane pads under the plinth to decouple it from external structure-borne vibrations, preserving the stylus's track fidelity. Yet some fringe purists prefer solid coupling, believing that a unified wood base imparts a natural warmth missing in isolation-heavy setups. Engineers still debate whether rigid or damped mounting yields the purest analog playback. You lean back, closing your eyes, and let the plinth's soft hum merge with the crackle's crack and pop. It feels like the hearth's warmth not only flickers against your ears, but pulses through your hands and chest, a multisensory aura. That wooden resonance, attuned by both design and touch, becomes another comforting element in your bedtime ritual. A light jest drifts to mind. Who needs a subwoofer when your coffee table's doing all the bass work? You imagine a living room speaker system that moonlights as furniture, blending form and function seamlessly. Between the warmth in your palm and the gentle mechanical hum, you sense a holistic synergy stylus. Vinyl, tone arm, and plinth collaborating to weave a rich tapestry of sound. It's a reminder that analog playback isn't just about electricity and motion, but about the tangible connection between materials, physics, and human touch, an alchemy that consoles and cradles you towards sleep. You glance down at the spinning platter and consider a quirky fringe tip you once read, applying a whisper-thin smear of food-grade silicone oil along the inner edge of the record label's circumference, just far enough from the groove to coax smoother stylus travel and muffle minor surface noise. That sly trick promises to act as a micro-lubricant, reducing friction and softening click-prone edges like adding a drop of oil to a squeaky hinge so your crackle feels more like a gentle sizzle than a snap. Mainstream vinyl engineering, however, reminds us that while lubricants can reduce mechanical friction, they also risk attracting dust or altering groove geometry if applied too liberally. Silicone oil's viscosity around 100 centistokes for light grades offers a slippery barrier, yet vinyl's porous polymer matrix can absorb trace amounts, potentially causing long-term surface changes. It's a delicate dance. A microgram of lubricant might slip into a scratch, smoothing a pop, or it might linger and trap debris, turning a fleeting fix into a stubborn problem. As you lean forward, you imagine placing a tiny oil droplet at precisely the right spot, then watching the stylus glide past the treated zone like a skater on perfectly waxed ice. Fringe audiophiles swear this method yields smoother crackle transitions and fewer sharp transients, likening the result to upgrading from rough-hewn logs to expertly split kindling in a fireplace. They'll caution you to wipe away every excess oil with lint-free cloth before play, lest you risk slicking the groove walls themselves. Whether this playful hack elevates crackle from rustic to refined, or simply coats your record like hummingbird nectar, turntable tinkerers still debate its merits versus the purity of unaltered vinyl texture. You let the idea settle into your mind and recall that mainstream maintenance guides typically advocate against any fluid contact with grooves, recommending dry brushes and vacuum cleaners instead. Yet there's something enchanting about the notion of a secret oil ritual, passed from vinyl whisperer to vinyl whisperer in hushed forum posts. You can almost hear the sidebar conversations, a drop of silicone here, a gentle buff there, voila, crackle couture. Between thoughts, you feel the tactile urge to test a minuscule oil bead on a spare scrap disc, just enough to see if the crackle metamorphoses into a velvety hiss. You imagine the tactile feedback as the stylus tip meets that lubricated section, a subtle shift in resistance, a softening of high-frequency transients, a brief flirtation with near silence. Then the oil evaporates, or, more likely, remains forever entombed beneath the stylus's microtree, a tiny time capsule of audio experimentation. Mainstream chemical safety standards remind you that any solvent or lubricant carries potential for polymer degradation. Trace silicones can migrate under pressure and heat, slowly easing into the vinyl's microstructure. Over years of plays, A record treated with oil might develop a perpetually smoothed groove, but also a loss of the crisp initial crackle that made you reach for this steadfast analog medium in the first place. Engineers still debate whether the long-term acoustic trade-offs of lubricated playback tip toward preservation or toward unintended distortion. You mentally weigh the pros and cons like a chemist crafting a new formula for lab-grade lubrication. On the one hand, friction is the enemy of delicate stylus tips and crisp audio fidelity. A drop of silicone could act as a sacrificial barrier, absorbing wear and sparing your diamond stylus from micro-abrasion. On the other hand, vinyl's carefully pressed surface etched with grooves mere microns wide relies on precise geometry. Any foreign fluid risks rounding off those edges, softening transients you cherish. As the platter hums beneath you, you consider an alternative fringe technique, lightly misting the turntable's platter mat with an anti-static spray designed for photography equipment, then letting it air dry before laying down your vinyl. Proponents claim this static dissipating layer curbs electrostatic pops without touching the grooves directly. Whether this aerosol approach maintains crackle clarity or simply layers chemical residues atop your precious LP, mat innovators still debate the safety of indirect fluid applications versus complete dryness. You trace a finger thoughtfully along the tone arm as though testing for residual oil slicks, noting how the stylus clamps itself to the groove under a calibrated tracking force untouched by solvent. If you've done your dry brush ritual properly. That contrast between the temptation of lubrication and the discipline of dry maintenance feels emblematic of the analog listener's eternal balancing act, ritual versus restraint, innovation versus tradition. A soft joke drifts into your consciousness. Next, I'll build a miniature oil drip chamber for my turntable, call it Vinyl Viscosity Tuner 3000. The absurdity makes you smile. Yet you appreciate how such playful engineering impulses propel fringe innovations forward, even if mainstream wisdom rings cautionary bells. You lean back and let the crackle return in unadulterated form, each pop a reminder of the vinyl's inherent texture. Whether you opt for the micro-lubrication hack or stick to tried-and-true brushing, the crackle remains a living, breathing element of your bedtime ritual. In its imperfect imperfection lies the warmth that digital silence can never replicate. As the music swells beneath the crackle, you decide that some secrets are best savored in imagination rather than in practice. You close your eyes and let the natural scratch symphony guide you, trusting that the listening ritual, oil-free or oiled, will always offer its own brand of sonic serenity. You settle deeper into your pillows and let your mind drift to the contrast between vinyl's warm crackle and the near-sterile stillness of digital silence. Noticing how each pop and hiss carries a tactile richness that zeros and ones simply can't replicate. That analog versus digital divide begins with how sound is encoded. Vinyl etches a continuous waveform into grooves, preserving every micro variation in amplitude and frequency, whereas digital audio samples the signal at discrete intervals, typically 44.1 kHz, capturing only snapshots of the sound wave. Mainstream audio engineering teaches that this sampling rate, governed by the Nyquist theorem, can reproduce frequencies up to 22.05 kHz, just above human hearing. But it inherently discards ultrasonic information and subtle waveform nuances that vinyl's analog path retains. You sigh as you imagine the vinyl groove as a continuous highway, every molecule of the record surface contributing to a seamless sonic journey, versus digital's dotted line approach, where the smooth curve becomes a series of tiny steps. Fringe audiophile circles sometimes swear by high-resolution digital formats or 192 kHz sampling rates and exotic DA converters, arguing that increasing sample density or using advanced interpolation algorithms can bridge the analog gap, restoring vinyl-like warmth in the digital realm. Whether these high-res digital masters deliver perceptible gains or merely tap into listener expectation bias, digital signal processing experts still debate the audibility of frequencies beyond 20 kHz and the legitimacy of ultra-analog marketing claims. Between Crackles, you catch yourself humming the opening bars of the record's melody, feeling how vinyl's surface noise blooms organically around the music, creating a living soundscape. By contrast, digital tracks often employ noise reduction tools, RMS limiters, declick filters, and dynamic range compression to produce crystalline clarity. Mainstream mastering guides note that aggressive digital noise reduction can introduce artifacts, chirps, rainbow noise, or pumping effects that some listeners find more distracting than vinyl's natural imperfections. It's a trade-off: pristine silence versus welcoming texture. You lean forward and gently tap your foot in time with a muted click, appreciating how vinyl's crackle can act as a metronomic companion, guiding you through the track's tempo. In digital silence, you'd rely solely on the rhythm track, unadorned and unaccompanied. Fringe turntablists sometimes layer isolated vinyl crackle tracks recorded in high fidelity under digital playback, blending analog warmth with digital convenience. They claim this hybrid approach yields the best of both worlds, the convenience of digital playlists with the comforting hearth of analog noise. Whether these bespoke crackle beds truly enhance immersion or simply serve niche nostalgia, audio purists still debate the authenticity of such synthetic analog augmentation. You rest your hand on the remote control beside you, imagining switching to a lossless digital track for comparison. In that moment, you wonder if digital's ultra-quiet floor would feel disconcerting, almost antiseptic against your ear, and whether the absence of imperfection might leave you craving the subtlest hiss. This psychological craving highlights a mainstream psychoacoustic principle. A completely silent background can heighten awareness of minute sounds and create a sense of emptiness, whereas a gentle ambient layer like vinyl's crackle provides comforting context and fills the auditory void. Between the record's next cluster of clicks, you recall a quirky fringe experiment some sound artists intentionally route digital audio through analog tape machines or decaying cassette decks before digitizing it back to lossless formats, claiming that this round-trip analog/digital loop imparts a more authentic lo-fi warmth than sampling vinyl directly. They dub it tape vinyl hybridization, extolling its ability to conjoin tape hiss, vinyl crackle, and digital clarity into one unified sonic palette. Whether this multi-stage process genuinely merges the best qualities of each medium or just creates a patchwork of noise signatures, recording engineers still debate the merits of analog-digital analog workflows versus pure digital chains. You press your palms against your ears and imagine the crackle as tiny echoes of wood smoke and leather armchairs, whereas digital silence would be like a pristine clinical chamber. That visceral contrast underscores the emotional dimension of sound reproduction, how medium shapes mood. Mainstream studies in soundscape design reveal that ambient noise, natural or artificial, can strongly influence emotional state, reducing stress or enhancing relaxation depending on its character. Vinyl crackle, with its random yet soothing bursts, may tap into subconscious associations with home fireside comfort, while digital silence lacks that textured memory anchor. Between this reflection and the next melodic phrase, you smile at the thought of a future high-tech vinyl player that seamlessly toggles between analog and digital outputs, letting listeners choose their preferred noise floor. Fringe tech futurists have prototyped turntables with built-in ADC DAC circuits, offering simultaneous analog line-out with digital streaming capabilities. They assert that this dual-mode design represents the inevitable convergence of past and present technologies. Audio hardware developers still debate whether embedding digital conversion in vintage-style turntables honors the analog ethos or dilutes it under modern convenience. You close your eyes as the crackle dims into the music's embrace, feeling how vinyl's imperfections have guided your journey from awareness into gentle immersion. The analog noise no longer feels like random interference, but part of the auditory fabric woven into the story of the song, enveloping you in a warm cocoon. It's a reminder that science and sentiment intertwine. Analog encoding preserves nuance and texture. Digital excels in precision and convenience, yet your bedtime ritual thrives on the balanced interplay of both. Finally, as the needle lifts and the record spins freely, you let the last crackle echo into silence, knowing that this analog warmth will linger in your mind far beyond the absence of music. In that space between noise and quiet, the consciousness finds a gentle bridge toward dreams, built on science and sealed by nostalgic comfort. You reach the record's final grooves, where the crackle's tempo wanes to a gentle staccato, each pop, now a tender echo in the spacious, near silence. That denouement of imperfections feels like the last glowing ember in a hearth, flickering before settling into warmth's memory. Mainstream cognitive science tells us that such auditory echoes can trigger the hippocampus, where episodic memories nestle. Each crackle becomes an evocative cue, summoning images of past evenings spent by the fire with vinyl spinning softly. It's remarkable how mere acoustic transients, milliseconds-long pops and clicks can unlock decades-old recollections with vivid clarity. As you listen, you notice how the crackle pattern mirrors the irregular rhythms of spoken conversation, pauses, and emphases that parallel human speech inflections. Fringe psychoacousticians sometimes point to this parallel, suggesting that vinyl noise taps into innate neural circuits tuned to speech patterns, fostering a deep sense of familiarity and comfort. They call it sonic pareidolia, a subconscious tendency to find meaning or warmth in random noise. Whether this speech-like resonance underlies vinyl's appeal or simply reflects post-hoc pattern recognition, neuroscientists still debate the universality of speech pattern bias in auditory perception. Between the final clicks, you feel the turntable's spindle slow as the platter spins down, the record's surface cooling toward room temperature. That gentle thermal relaxation subtly shifts groove dimensions back to their baseline, completing the thermomechanical cycle that began with stylus friction. Mainstream material science shows that repeated heating and cooling cycles, albeit minor, can, over years of playback, contribute to vinyl fatigue, gradually softening polymer chains. Yet in the moment, the cooling record seems to exhale a final warmth, as though sighing in contentment after a faithful performance. You lean back, cradling the tone arm as it rises, and you glimpse the record's glossy face, etched with concentric grooves now hushed. Those silent grooves hold the memory of every crackle, a tangible record of your listening ritual. Fringe memory researchers sometimes propose that objects bearing wear patterns like vinyl's scratch signatures carry tactile memories, physical imprints that resonate with our own neural memory traces. They argue that the groove's silent scars encode experiences beyond sound, embedding the history of each spin into the very fabric of the record. Whether material wear can indeed echo our inner narratives or remains an evocative metaphor, anthropologists still debate the concept of object-based memory. Between your next deep breath, you reflect on how the crackle forged a bridge between then and now, the science of groove geometry, stylus mechanics, and neurocognitive recall intertwined to create a multisensory time capsule. Each pop was not merely noise, but a portal to earlier moments: lazy Sundays, family gatherings, whispered conversations in dimly lit rooms. Mainstream psychology confirms that multisensory cues, especially those combining sound and touch, strengthen memory encoding, making these crackles potent mnemonic anchors. A light joke surfaces: I should have recorded my grandparents' crackles for posterity, ancient pop DNA. Yet, you appreciate the truth behind the jest. Crackle patterns are as unique as fingerprints, reflecting record pressing, storage conditions, and countless plays. Collectors sometimes catalog their favorite records' crackle signatures, creating vinyl ID profiles for forensic audio work. Whether such crackle fingerprinting ever aids in art fraud detection or remains a niche curiosity, audio archivists still debate its reliability and ethical implications. You close your eyes as the platter slows to silence, letting the hush wash over you. In that quiet, you feel the afterglow of crackle reverberate in your mind, a soft echo that lingers long after the music stops. It's a gentle testament to the power of analog imperfection, that in the interplay of science, mechanics, and memory, we find the warmest pathways to comfort and reflection. Let your thoughts drift like soft smoke curling from a dying hearth, each crackle's memory fading into the gentle hush of night. You have witnessed the science of sound groove geometry, stylus dance, thermal whispers, and electrostatic sparks woven seamlessly with the alchemy of memory and emotion. Now, in this quiet aftermath, each pop and click dissolves, leaving behind a warm residue of nostalgia that cradles your mind. Feel the tension of the day unwind as you rest into the hush, allowing each residual vibration to soften into a velvet silence. The room's air, once charged with sound, now feels hushed and expectant, like a canvas awaiting tomorrow's brush. In this sacred pause, let gratitude for small wonders, mechanical marvels turning motion into melody flood your awareness. In the final calm, remember that every analog imperfection once carried warmth and personality. Now, each crackle's echo becomes a lullaby of lived experience. Breathe slowly, entraining your heartbeat to the residual rhythm of that crackle symphony. As your eyelids grow heavy, envision those soft pops as fading embers guiding you into slumber's embrace. Now, surrender to the quiet. Let the science and sentiment settle in your bones and drift into sleep, wrapped in the gentle afterglow of vinyl's cozy hearth. Sweet dreams.